Hey everybody. It is 8 o'clock, so we're going to start right on time. I'm just going to take for granted that everybody can see me and everybody is joining us. So I'm very excited to host this Triathlon Research Lab event. If you have been watching, you have a little chance to see the Endurance Zone show as sort of a preamble into what we're going to talk about tonight. Anyway, the agenda for today is to talk about the off-season. And obviously, if you live anywhere in the eastern part of the country, we've had a few nights, a few days where it started to cool down. We're starting to talk about the out-season. I won't call it the off-season because our main guest today, Coach Jeff Booher from TriTats Training Systems, will have something to say about that. So TriTats Systems is, let me tell you about Jeff. Jeff is the founder of TriTats Systems, which is the fastest growing triathlon training system in the country. It's the only patent pending software on the market. The really cool thing about this is that it is crowdsourced. So it continues to adapt and evolve and become more intelligent. Now if that reminds you of the Terminator films, yes, Skynet will go live. Or should have gone live already in 2012, so we're past that. Jeff originally founded TriTats because he was looking to restore balance in his life, and still is looking for better race results, as we all are. And Jeff is also a former intelligence specialist with the United States Army. So if you neglect to opt into Jeff's site, he will hack into your computer and steal your email address anyway. So that's Jeff. We also have with us, I'll see if I can get his picture up manually. That's Bill Burnett of Streamline Events.
Hey.
Say hi, Bill.
Hi, Dave.
Bill is going to talk us through a little bit. Jeff's going to handle the bulk of the talk tonight, but Bill's going to tell us a little bit about what it is like being a race director. Bill is the founder and managing director of Streamline Events, based outside of Boston, and Streamline directs over 10 triathlons in New England and Florida. Streamline's Cohasset Triathlon, located 20 miles south of Boston, is one of the fastest sell-out sprint triathlons in the country, selling out 1,200 spots in less than 15 minutes. And Streamline was the first management firm to stage an age group draft legal event in Clermont, Florida, and that is actually pretty awesome because anybody who's seen the pros do draft legal event, we all want to get in and get in that pace line and race like that. In our equipment corner, this is still tentative. We were supposed to have Mr. Sean Jackson. Not Deshaun Jackson of the Philadelphia Eagles, but Sean Jackson of TriTats Training System, or TriTats Race Numbering System, which is by far the best way to identify yourself and your equipment at any race or event, and actually will be in Kona this year for the first time. So that's huge for them. So I am Danny Kolker. I'm a producer with Endurance Films and the host of the show that you called Endurance Zone that you see the link to above on this show page here. It's a show we just started putting out. It's going viral. It's a great piece of just a way for us to touch base with the triathlon community. It's a quick hit of news, tidbits, and tips from the lighter side of endurance sports. And after, just so everybody knows, stick around because after the event tonight, everybody who's on here, us included, are going to be giving away some very cool stuff. Speaking for us in Endurance Films, we're going to be giving away an 8-pack of our Rides Indoor Cycling Series. That's 8 DVDs, and also giving you a very special offer. Jeff will be giving away some free TriTats services, and Bill, what's your offer tonight?
Hey, sorry, Dan, I had to unmute. So yeah, we're giving away 2 free registrations to our event in Clermont, Florida.
2 free registrations, that awesome event where it's a draft legal age group thing, so that's awesome. So, you know, I realized I don't know if Jeff actually said hi or not, but I've been talking about him as our primary guest, and we haven't seen him yet. So, Jeff, there's Jeff.
Yep.
Jeff, why don't we just start? We'll get right into it because we're going to stick to a really tight time frame. We want to give people time to answer questions and have time to do the giveaways. So we're here talking about TriTats systems and primarily your Outseason project. Why don't you tell us a little bit what that's all about?
Yeah, well, the Outseason project is pretty cool. It's a fun thing we're doing. TriTats, like you mentioned, about a systematic way of designing training that gets more out of each training hour invested. So we're really working on performance and balance and getting the most per hour. So many triathletes have limited time and really want to be good, husbands, fathers, employees, employers, and such. But they want to do good. They're competitors and they want to do well. So we've developed a system that allows us to create training, and we go through. We have a TriTats score, which is a way to assess training right up front on a scale of 0 to 60, so you can measure each of your disciplines, how strong they are in relationship to each other, so you know where to focus. And then we take into account the athlete's age and body composition, how long they've been doing the sport, and about 40 or 50 other metrics, and put them through a systematic training design process to where we can create optimized training through a repeatable methodology. And with that repeatable methodology, we can continue to monitor and improve it and make it better and better and better. And then that culminates in we'll use a RaceX. It's a race pacing strategy, which is based on your actual training and knows the course that you're doing, how tough it is, the length it is, projects your finish time, and gives you pacing and power wattage if you're using wattage and all that kind of stuff. So it's a way to observe and measure and improve and deliver repeatable results for people. Well, with the project, we're really focused on just the Outseason piece, and that's where it's kind of cool for the athletes. We're giving away free kits for people who refer other people, and actually have a $3,000 prize for whoever refers the most people. Because one of the things that we need the most is data. We've had hundreds, literally hundreds and thousands of athletes who've gone through it, and data over the last 6-7 years. Right now we're actually even giving away 2 months of free training for qualified athletes, to where they can actually train for 2 months. We'll design their program, and they get the results just like any other athlete would, in exchange for even some additional data beyond their training data. So it's just kind of a way to keep it fun, so we can learn more, so we can improve. Every athlete that goes through TriTats makes the system better. And so we're just investing very heavily in learning and seeing what we found from that, so we can serve our athletes better. So there's a website, theoutseasonproject.com, where we have more information. But yeah, that's what it's all about.
Great. And I just wanted to mention that if questions come up, if you do have questions, you'll see there's a Facebook fueled comment window. I'm looking off to my left because I have another monitor here, and I know as soon as I do that, you see a profile, which is not good. But you can post your comments and questions in the Facebook comment window, and then Jeff will be happy to answer them. As would Bill Burnett, if you have any race director-oriented questions once he tells us a little bit more about Streamline events. So, Jeff, first of all, I think we're using the term Outseason. Just kind of really quickly delineate Outseason and Off-season, and why you make that point to use different terminology.
Right. So a lot with off-season comes taking off of training, not training anymore. And that used to be the habit of a lot of athletes. It's still the mentality of some. We actually did a survey just, I guess, this past week or so. We had more than 700 something respondents, and we found that only 11% of the athletes were going to take more than 4 weeks off after the season was over. So that time between seasons isn't really an off time. We consider it, we aren't racing, so it's not in season, so it's just out season. And so we approach it a little differently. There's a lot of different things you can do in training during the season. Your training is restricted to, or I guess the requirements of your race distance. If you're doing an iron race or a long course race, there's certain things you have to do in training to finish that distance. And so that can often inhibit people from progressing and getting faster and more developed in the sport. And when in the out season, when you remove that requirement of a race distance, it allows us just to work on athletes, whatever they need to do to be better athletes, to better serve. So they don't have this restriction of an imminent race. They can, become more powerful, increase their threshold, work on mechanics. They can do a whole lot of things. So it's a very unique time. And thinking of it as an out season versus off season, it can be very personal. So even though there's races going on, maybe March, in the U.S. anyway, March through November, if you're only racing the latter half of the season, you can have an out season in the spring where you're doing some of the same principles and that same type of training during that time. So it's kind of any time when your next big race is more than about 4 months out, we call it about that. And then there's some other stuff, difference between out season and in season that you look at differently, being without that looming race. A lot of times when your stress level's down, you might not be as anxious about it, but you're also not as excited about it or as motivated. So a lot of times consistency can suffer, and motivation and being intentional about your training, as well as the weather. I mean, that impacts a lot of people during their out season. They're going indoors and doing things differently. So, teaching them to learn how to use trainers more effectively, compu trainers, stationary trainers, even without power, doing videos like your cycling series. I mean, that's just huge for doing stuff like that to keep you working, pushing hard, get the sense of people around you sometimes when you're solitary and inside. So it can actually be the most productive part of the whole year. More of an athlete's success and improvement can happen during the out season than any other time of the whole year, including the race prep period. We actually had an athlete, it was last year, never done an Ironman before, trained for 15 months and did 2 out-season programs prior to going into his last phase, which was a race prep phase. He did Ironman Mont Tremblant, and he didn't have a background at all doing triathlons or any other sport. He was about 37, 38 years old. He did 11:38 on no more than 15 hours training in any 1 week. He only had 2 weeks over 15 hours. The bulk of the rest were 13 hours and less. So just to get incredible results out of that amount of time, but spending it wisely and planning your training phases and using that out season phase effectively can generate more productivity for an athlete than any other phase.
Well, it seems like it seems that it's, not to get too existential, but it seems like it's a time to sort of find yourself, whereas during the season you might think, well, I have to concentrate on this. I have no real time to learn anything different. You sort of you find people can make themselves sort of a blank canvas project during this out season and use tools like yours to paint on that?
Absolutely. So that's the time. There's a lot of things that athletes will do during that time. One is if you're getting a new bike or a new fit, changing the way you run. I know even you guys have that Bobby McGee's Run Mechanics DVD. I really recommend that for a lot of my athletes who are trying to rework or improve their run mechanics. And a lot of times when you change your gait, if you're doing very high volume and trying to make those big change, you can have injury during that time. So the out season is the time when your runs tend to be shorter, and you can make changes like that. And really, like you said, a blank canvas, kind of start over, retrain yourself, how to run or improve swim stroke or anything like that.
Great, yeah, it's funny. You've so far mentioned 2 of our DVDs. I think.
How many do you have? I don't want to set a goal here.
We have dozens. We have dozens of them, maybe 3-4 dozen that we've produced ourselves. We sell a few third party, but the one you mentioned, Bobby McGee, is great, and we'd be happy to share all that information with you, and to help people sort of navigate to our products through you, so you can help them in their out-season training. I was just going to say, you're plugging our company more than I have to, but I appreciate it. So you've talked about, maybe let's talk a little bit more specifically about the objectives for the out-season. Let's just hone it in a little bit.
Well, there's definitely some mistakes that athletes can make, and then there's some really good things they can do. I like to kind of approach it from what not to do first, and then kind of focus. Okay, from that we learn that and go through some positive things. The first thing I think that a lot of people have learned is to take some time off. That you need a downtime, you need some unstructured time, just mental refreshing, but it really doesn't need to be that long. So the key, a lot of new athletes, I guess, coming in, maybe did a half season this season, they're all fired up and ready to go, and they just don't want to take a break at all. And I would encourage those to take a break for a few weeks, because next season is going to be a long season, and they'd rather take that break and kind of bank that de-stress time now and have a great season next year than get halfway through next season and then be feeling what everyone else is feeling right now. So take a little bit of time off, but not too much time off, so that, you know, physically your body needs a lot of time to develop lower limb durability. So when athletes are taking too much time off, they can lose that. Older senior athletes, masters, can tend to lose muscle mass if they don't keep up, if they don't do the right training. So there's certain things like that that you definitely want to do. But, you know, looking at most of the athletes, it used to be where training in the off season or the out season is the competitive advantage. So if you're training then when everyone else is not, then you have an advantage going into next year and you're going to progress. But now, based on, you know, what I'm hearing from athletes and then our study last week, almost 90% of athletes are training, you know, just about year round, taking about, you know, 3-4 weeks off, but they're training. So the competitive advantage and the difference maker is how they spend that time. And so from that respect, I just encourage athletes to not just mentally take time off, not get lazy in their thinking and think that they're in a maintenance mode, you know, or some vague, just that activity substitutes for training. You know, just because you're burning calories and staying active, that doesn't mean you're maintaining abilities or progressing. There's a lot of things you can do that actually allow your fitness to deteriorate even though you're moderately active. And I know activities, you know, doing something's better than doing nothing usually. But you have to be very purposeful. We did a study, I guess it was 2 years ago in 2011, on the out season. It was smaller than the one that we're doing this year, but it's still almost 100 athletes. And during the out season phase alone, by being just intentional about their time, how they spent their hours, they were able to increase their 800-meter swim, their 100-meter pace by 18 seconds, and their bike ability by 2.1 miles per hour, and their 10K run pace by 32 seconds per mile, which is a huge gain on diminished hours, and that was about a 14-week average training phase. So imagine, you know, drastically reducing your hours and coming out that much stronger and fit, you know, going into next year.
So is there structure and periodization within the out season? Obviously there's structure, but is there any sort of periodization within the out season training?
That's a great question. So looking at it a couple of ways, a lot of people don't understand periodization or how impactful a good periodized program can make a difference in when the regular season comes along, not, you know, let alone the out season. One of the things to look at is having the periodization be discipline independent. So I know a lot of times if you go get a free plan, you're going to have, you know, out season, intermediate, Ironman, or, you know, a race distance, a performance level, and then in season, out season, whatever, 12-week, 8-week, something. But to treat all the disciplines different is what you have to do to get the most out of each one, so you're not spending excessive time where there's, you know, diminished return on you can't make very much gains if you're already a great swimmer, whereas you may make substantial gains in the bike or the run. And so being able to periodize them independently by discipline and proportionally, it's not an all or nothing switch. It's not this focus, that focus. It's how much of each focus precisely. And then we use a reverse periodization or a staggered periodization, where instead of building this high volume, which is the very, you know, traditional 30-year-old thinking, and then increasing speed later, is think of it like strong before long or fast before far. So teaching yourself to get fast and building that capability for speed, and that's something that you can't do during the in-season. During the in-season, when you're racing these long races, you don't have the capacity. Your body doesn't have the capacity to absorb the type of training that you can in the out-season when you don't have to do those super long rides or runs. Your body can absorb a lot more things, and that's the time to squeeze the fast in and the strong in. And then later, when next season comes, you're going to be able to go far and long building that stamina, but you're going to be able to do those race prep phases on much fewer hours because you just prepared yourself to race a shorter race. So rather than thinking, I have to go to a 16-hour Ironman, I need to prepare for a 16-hour event, develop the capacity, the efficiency, the mechanics, and the threshold and strength to go do a 13-hour race. Then as that race gets closer, you're training for a shorter race, which reduces all your long sessions, your combo sessions, break workouts. Everything is smaller, shorter, and you're able to race faster.
Okay, so I got a couple questions based off what you just said. One, actually answer them if you can remember, because I'll forget my second question by the time I'm finished answering asking my first. Is the first one is it seems daunting to try to figure out how to do what you're telling us to do. So I assume, and tell us how, the TriTats system helps you manage this time most efficiently. Also, of the training itself, does the software or does the coaching take into account, a lot of people are probably trying to build up strength and doing a lot of lifting at this time, or just functional strength training. Do the workout goals, do those sort of reflect the fact that you might be more fatigued having done stuff like that?
They do. That's a kind of a complex question because it's one of those it depends questions. So first of all, how we manage the training. So it does sound daunting, and you mentioned earlier that we are patents pending on our technology and how we do what we do, how we deliver this training. And we're the only ones in the world that do any of the things that I mentioned earlier, as far as the standardized assessments up front, taking all that into account, how we manage workload training, workload capacity, and that all the different metrics where we determine how much intensity, how long, how frequently, what type of workouts you're doing, and then translate that into race protocols and measure that athletes before, during, and after, taking into account their height, weight, age, gender, body composition, all of those things. So what it looked like originally, so in the absence of that, what most or all coaches that don't have something like that, what you're left with is using training principle and theory and what other people do. So if there's a world champion so-and-so, you look at their workouts and want to do what their workouts are, or you listen to a coach who's had good success with one athlete, and so you do what he does for all his athletes or her athletes. And so you're pretty much following tradition or sort of vague principles. And when you try to broadly apply principles like that, they're all truthful in certain circumstances, but they can't be universally applied. And the trouble is that you don't know which ones are true. I know there's that Mark Twain quote, the trouble isn't what you know, it's what you think you know that you don't know. Hey, Sean.
Yep.
Well, you can hear some feedback on there. We heard you. Your audio's working now. That's cool.
Okay, good. I'll mute then. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks. So, gosh, I forgot your second question, but so the first one so in absence of having the ability to measure all those things, when you got athletes or coaches that are prescribing training that's based on theory and principle and guidelines of what they've done before, instead of doing that, we've developed a methodology to actually be kind of agnostic on what principles or anything and just take the data in. And in order to do that, we needed the methodology of how you manage the training, how you quantify the workloads, and how you account for the composition of the different sets and the intervals, how much fatigue does that create, and just being able to track it over time. And that just requires hundreds and hundreds of athletes and doing it the same way every time. And every time we see a deviation or a split or a pattern forming with an age, or there's a threshold for weight, how far can you run, or how heavy can you be of an athlete before training is very excessively traumatic, the longer runs on your body. So where's that point of diminishing returns for a heavy athlete or an older athlete versus a different athlete, and how much ROI can they expect on race day if they race at this watts versus that watts. And the only way to get to that is creating a system and a methodical process for building and designing both training plans and racing methodologies, and having just the high volumes of athletes to do that. And so,
well, it sounds like to me that the system would, unless you have a coach that is tuned into you, into your physiology, into your your nutrition, into your personal habits, it sounds like this system would lift a huge burden that would normally have to be carried by a world-class coach.
Absolutely. So I think there's the time involved and the commitment involved to see all of those things. But then for a coach that is doing that is delivering that kind of result or that kind of service, the hands-on, the knowing, the nutrition, knowing all those things, that coach is only able to handle a handful of athletes. So their population from which they derive all of their experience or apply all of their knowledge or accreditation or whatever education they have is on a very, very limited population. And so if you look at that limited population and see how many of those athletes are 53 years old with no background versus 22 years old with a cross country and Division I running background, it's hard for them to see patterns when they trial and error and do different things. They don't know what to attribute it to. While they have a ton of data and they're watching the athlete very closely and they know exactly what's going on, they're applying theory to an athlete in a population of 1. Whereas when we're able to do it with this large numbers, we can just, out of the sheer numbers, choose all the people that fit a certain demographic and monitor their training, and we're doing it in the same way, measuring it in the same way, and being able to see what is effective and what's not. You mentioned earlier about the weight training and how that works, and when we have different levels, obviously, of coaching, some are more attentive and hands-on and more communication. Every athlete gets the same quality training program itself, and honestly, that gets most athletes to 90-95% of their potential, just training them right. And some of the values that you look at every single day, unless the sleep's way off, there's some fatigue factors of just lack of sleep, stress on the job. Some of those over time can have a big effect, but a lot of times that is noise data, and there's bigger variances due to things that are fluctuating and temporary. And if you watch those too closely, you can get distracted by them and start changing training due to extraneous data that is going to be flushed out over time versus just training through at different parts or having built-in little buffers that help you diminish and regulate your training on certain days. And we found more success with that. We've had, I don't know, a year ago, I know there's a point where we had 6 of our professional athletes who were all training at the highest level that they had in their entire career in every single discipline, and they all also had the longest period of injury-free due to training. One of them fell down a ladder, another one wrecked on a mountain bike. But other than that, all of them had the longest injury-free period that they'd ever had in their career at the same time. So all of that, comes into play, I guess, when you're looking at the population size, and in combination with the service of the coach who's dedicated and watching you and communicating and following what you're doing.
It sounds like it's almost like a very heavily governed Wikipedia for triathlon. Something that just kind of adds to itself, and all the newest and best knowledge just starts building to the benefit of the whole community. What I'm interested in is just how specific. Like, let's say you want, let's say you meet certain demographics and certain stats within the TriTats software. Let's say then you need a heavy run focus in the out season. What does a run focused out season look like, and how does the software account for that?
Yeah, so it's a combination. One is I touch every single training plan. I actually look at all of them, and that's kind of the way that we work with our coaches. So I'm providing a big service to them, so I'm able to use the software, pull the data in, watch for things, and just start seeing patterns, and I push it to them, and then they work with the athletes. So the athletes may have stuff like travel or illness or anything comes up, changing races, and so they work with them to manage that. So when I'm looking at run training, a run focus specifically, that's probably the most common out-season focus. Some athletes will have a bike or a swim focus, but by far the most popular one, or I guess the most common one, is for athletes that want to do the run training in the out-season. And one of the first things that I really encourage athletes to do, especially if they're new to TriTat, they don't do this if they've been an athlete, but is to really double check and confirm the diagnosis of why they believe they need a run focus. There's a lot of athletes in absence of if you don't have a TriTat score saying my bike is a 45, my run is a 32, and my swim's a 45, and a way to really confirm that's where my run focus is. A lot of athletes will look at they're new to running. They'll look at their last race result. Maybe they didn't have a very good run split or as good as they thought they had, and so they'll make some deductions and conclude that they need a run-focused training when maybe they just went too hard on the bike, or maybe they just paced themselves wrong on the run, or maybe, who knows, maybe their training wasn't right going into the race. There's all kinds of things. So once they confirm that, we see a lot of athletes who choose to go and do a marathon. They say, I'm going to be a better runner, so I want to go do a marathon. Obviously, if I train for marathon, I'll be a better runner. But that's one of the big fallacies that we've been able to dispel on, that the notion of going out and doing a large, high volume of running it actually can harm your running, and actually almost always does. Even marathon runners don't train by doing marathons. They run about that much just because they run so fast. So if you don't think of run training as mileage or distance, but think of it as duration. So for a marathoner, elite marathoner is going to go do a long run, of an hour and a half of 2:10, 2:15, but that's an entire marathon for them. So when they're doing these high mileage 20-mile days, it's not a long day. So think, our athletes, we'll work with them on the duration. So it's more of a duration-based effort. So you hold a specific effort for a specific duration. And we encourage athletes that, say if you should be racing full Ironman races and you want to do a race, running race in the out season, do a half marathon, train for a half. Or if you're a 70.3 athlete, train for a 10K. Train for one level down. It'll help your mechanics. It'll help you get faster, your speed, and then later in the season you're going to be a better runner. So that when you do ramp up the stamina and go for a longer race distance, you'll be a better runner. So a lot of athletes that have the biggest need for getting faster, they're slower athletes, they're heavy athletes, they're older athletes, they have a short running background. For all of those reasons, training long, running longer distances actually makes them worse runners, and it increases their injury risk. So if you think about it, athletes, even good athletes, are only able to hold good run form for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then their run form mechanics really break down very quickly. So if you have these athletes who really, really need a run-focused training, need to get better on running, they're going to spend the vast majority of their time running very slow with horrible form. So they're going to run 40 minutes, decent form, if they're good and strong, and then if they run a 2-hour run, they're going to run another hour and 20 minutes with compensating muscles. They're going to be strengthening compensating muscles. They're going to be beating up their knees, hips, backs, ankles, and doing all kinds of damage, teaching themselves how to run slow. So it's much, much better for those athletes to focus on building strong strength mechanics, power, good durability, being consistent, and doing a lot of different types of training, different type of intensities, versus just going long. Excuse me. I know she got a phone call, so I'll say one more thing about, honestly, with our athletes on improving the run. The run is by far the discipline where the athlete benefits the most from body composition changes. So the heavier the athlete is, the proportion of their body weight to their strength is huge. So in the out season, oftentimes one of the best things that an athlete can do is improve their body composition if they need to do that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be only with training. I know we use Generation UCAN with all of our athletes. It's a starch rather than a sugar-based malt. It's not a maltodextrin or sugar, and you actually burn your fat. It keeps your blood insulin level during your workouts, and so they're able to burn fat instead of shutting down fat when your pancreas secretes insulin into your blood, and so they're able to actually drop a ton of body fat during the out season, even on a reduced training load. And so they're going to come next year with a much faster, much better body composition, in addition to being stronger, faster, with better mechanics and healthier. So I know that's just a handful, a scattering of different things that athletes should and shouldn't do, toward that run-focused out season. But if they do all those things as they're appropriate to them, their background and age and performance level, all of those are much more beneficial than doing the traditional run long, run marathon, half marathon, and that kind of just random training, and just doing a lot of it is going to make you faster.
It sounds awesome. It sounds like there's it sounds like there's, first of all, a lot more we can get through with you. It sounds like it's an incredible thing, an incredible tool to have, and I know it is. It just doesn't sound like it, because data. I'm preaching to the choir here to Jeff, data is everything, and that's the only way you improve. That's the way in any sport. That's why you hear Moneyball. That movie was all about improving by numbers. Jeff, is there anything, we want to stay to a tight schedule. We want to make sure people have enough time to answer questions. We have, I think close to 600 or 700 people on this, watching this event, and we want to give people enough time to ask questions and also get to our giveaways, so don't go away yet. we will be giving away a product, and we will also be giving away all the spoilers from the last Breaking Bad. So, you know, if that doesn't keep you, I don't know what will. Jeff, is there anything you want to wrap up with in terms of the Outseason project in general, and just tell people what to think about?
Well, I mean, I guess there's a couple things I could say real quickly. One is to the what you were talking about, Moneyball and the data. There's a lot of athletes who have a great dependency on watching their data, and they have this sense of feeling that they're following the data because they have their power meter numbers or their heart rate numbers, and they upload stuff to Garmin, and they do all these things so they have access to the data. And I just want to stress that's not what we're talking about. Those are measurements of tools, but they don't dictate what the next training should be or how you should react to whatever those results are during a session. So what we're talking about is the data, the visibility of if your power numbers and your session data and your assessments are these, and your body composition, all these other factors, the data that gives you the visibility of how should that affect your training, what should you do in the upcoming training, and that's where you don't have the visibility. And in your comparison with the Moneyball, for 100 years we've had stats in baseball. It wasn't until someone came along and created a methodology for evaluating those stats and making them meaningful and predictive. And predictive analytics is what we're talking about, is where you can see things and make correlations between cause and effect of this type of training based on these numbers is going to produce this outcome. So I think, I'd stress that. So in a lot of, in our data and electronics and all the gadgets, to not confuse data of measurements and what the metrics are saying when you're looking at what you just did, but the metrics in determining what you should be doing and what you should do next. I think in the Outseason is another just big thing for people is taking the time to reflect and just celebrate their successes for the year, but also look at their goals going into the next year, and making sure that their values and their priorities in life are aligned with what their goals are in the sport. We see, and this is kind of the reason that I kind of initially got onto this little journey of what became TriTats, was selfishly being a husband and a father of 3 and having a job and service in the community, all these things, but I was still a competitive, and I didn't like to lose, and I wanted to win, but I didn't want to spend too much time. So finding that balance is just so hard. So I just encourage athletes that are out there that, if you're having trouble managing, these other priorities or higher priorities, now's the time to just step back up, gain perspective, and, use your time smart. If you want to, train for these longer distances, if you're struggling to manage these other things, or, there's that, I've heard is a buddy of mine saying, why, at the end of Ironman, the kids run across the finish line with their, their mom or their dad, and they're all happy. It's because they hadn't seen them in 9 months. So it's a reunion, and so not having that kind of scenario. So kind of this time of the season, you're able to look at races and pick maybe a shorter race distance. Go, rather than iron or 70.3, do Olympic distance race, qualify for Team USA. There's all kinds of just cool goals. Go do the Draft Legal out there in Clermont with Bill. Those are just fun, exciting things you can do, and you can still, look at your purpose for the sport. Is it to be healthy, active, fit? Look good, whatever it is, you can do those in a multitude of different ways without jeopardizing the things that are really important in life. So this is the time in the Outseason also to do that kind of stuff. That's it.
Yeah. Jeff, why don't we, it's about 20 till. We'll, we'll give each person, each of the panelists time to sort of talk from their own perspective. I definitely want to hear what Bill Burnett has to say from a race director's perspective, because they must hear all kinds of athletes and talking about their training, their coaching, and what works, what doesn't. Let me just get into a question. What you were just saying, I'm going to look off and see a question that I found interesting from Kelly Trudell. And I would try to sound really professional and say where Kelly is from, but I don't see that here. From Facebook. Said, do you take the data files from Garmin devices or anything like that, or is it strictly on the standardized assessments?
Well, it's not exactly. It is based on the standardized assessments. We don't have much use for daily files. But we do have a lot of use for, especially before races, we have race rehearsals where you're actually doing prescribed watts pacing on the bike and the the run, where we look at those. We can scrutinize those. Also on the assessments, those one for the swim, bike, and run, we look at those and can find enough out of those to design the plans that deliver all the results we want. We found that when we look more detailed on even a daily basis, recovery, some of the other stuff, it's just almost meaningless. There's more fluctuation in the data from just noise, the lack of sleep, I ate too much before I ran after work instead of before work, the temperatures, 10 degrees hotter, colder. There's more noise in there and that can lead you astray, and so it's more of seeing those trends over time. So I hope that answered a question.
I hope so. We don't have the ability to ask her, but it sounded like it should have. Another question. You talked about race distance. Here, this is a general question from Mikel Valier. And what is most important from moving from a sprint distance to a half Ironman distance?
Well, that's a huge jump. The biggest thing, that's big in every way. The biggest thing is the run. Proportionally, there's the swim has a bigger difference in the actual sprint distance swim to a half Iron swim, but your training sessions are probably already longer than the swim in a half Iron race. The bigger deal is the length of the run. The bike, likewise, because you don't have that additional trauma from increasing the volume there, the pounding on the pavement. And so that biggest obstacle is making sure your run is fast enough and your mechanics are sound enough that you're able to ramp up. The longer that you can take at the sprint and Olympic level, we have what we call a race progression chart where we measure your assessments and give on a TriTats scale of where you should be before you move up to a next longer distance. Given anyone can race any distance, you can take, literally a couch potato in 12 years with the right, 12 months with the right training, they can do an Ironman. They can finish an Ironman. So I would never want to discourage anyone from achieving any goal or going after anything. But if you want to do it smartly, you want to do it healthily without, with minimal injury risk, and you want to enjoy the day and do well, not just complete it, but compete, kind of do good for what you think you can do. The best way to do that is to progress very gradually and achieve certain objectives. Do what you need to do as a sprint athlete and earn your right to train as an Olympic distance athlete. When you're an Olympic distance athlete, earn the right, get your speed, your mechanics, and do the things that you need to do. Don't just finish that, in 3 hours plus and then move on to a longer distance. You have more work to do at that distance before you move on. Doing so, moving earlier than that, increases the injury by far, and it also starts really habituating poor form, poor mechanics. And you're going to be stuck with that for years. So you're kind of embedding all of these poor mechanics and while you're doing these longer runs, and you're not going to enjoy the race day as much. So I'd say really focus on achieving what you need to and getting really fast and strong in the short distance. Especially the biggest deal is that run, having your run be strong.
Okay, moving on to the other end of the spectrum versus short distance. I see a question that was posted about an hour ago, so we want to make sure we get to that. And this probably will be our last question. And obviously, if we didn't get to somebody's question or they want to know anything, they can always reach you through tridot.com. So the last question, and I'm not sure I completely understand it, maybe you can break it down a little bit, is what do you recommend for sports-specific blocks training for an Ironman?
Sports-specific blocks training. So I would presume they're talking blocks as in periodization or training blocks, blocks of time. For an Ironman, we base everything, our fundamental training phase or training block is a phase which can be as short as 8 weeks, as long as 20 weeks for a full Iron race. And within that, we have mesocycles, which are 3 or 4 weeks typically, and we have assessments and testing every 3 to 4 weeks. So, if you're saying what are those, it's going to depend on the athlete's ability and performance level at each one of those. But they are broken down that way. And we look at it, say, when we take that fundamental training block of say a 12-week period, when we design that, we're going to take all of the things that I mentioned earlier with their TriTats score based on their assessments, their age, weight, gender, body composition and stuff. But we're also going to take their training that came before that, their workloads coming in based on single sessions, weekly workloads, combination loads. We're going to train them for that next training phase, say if it's an out-season phase, and then we're also going to look forward a phase, and maybe that's a 13, 15, 19-week race preparation phase that actually leads right up to the Ironman. And so we're going to determine the right length, the duration of each of those phases, and sequence those phases together so where we know when they need to start ramping up the volume in the long sessions, so they're going to get as much power and strength and mechanics work as they can up until that last couple of weeks, and then they're going to start, and then we know exactly how long it's going to take them because we can project their race time. We know how long we can safely increase their stamina over whether it's 12 weeks for an Ironman or 20 weeks for an Ironman or something in between. And so that's the fundamental training block that we use as a phase, 8 weeks to 20 weeks. Usually it's in the 12 to 16 range. But planning it out and then planning the races appropriately so they're falling at the right time during those phases, and so you're not just kind of cramming things together and doing a race at the very inopportune time, which damages or hinders your training at the wrong time of the phase.
Right. Okay, Jeff, you know what? I lied. Let's go with one more question because one just popped up here that I think is actually really interesting and probably applicable to mostly everybody at some point in their careers. Can TriTats help athletes recovering from major surgery or an injury? And that one's from Denise Matthews Rhodes in Marble Falls, Texas. Her city was actually up there, so got to sound cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So actually, it can't. That's kind of, we have a number of, even challenge athletes. There's different things that are, well, I take that back. It can, but it can't. The strength of TriTat is in the numbers, and it's in assuming people are healthy, capable, normal range of motion within certain standards. If there's something that's very particular to one single person, then a lot of the value of that of anything is not going to be utilized. But it allows us to start with a base training program, and then allows them with their coach to modify it from there. So we can say, here's if you're healthy, here's what the workout should be. If you're not inhibited on the swim, then let's do the swim. If you're okay on the bike, then do this. If the surgery's mainly impacting your run, then let's modify the run. And so they work with a one-on-one basis. There's no crowdsourcing or large data pool of people who've had that same injury, unfortunately. So it's not the same level of benefit, but it allows us to really zero in and create a really tight parameter around here's the types of things we're doing. And then we're looking at the certain composition of the sets. If we're looking at a certain intensity level for a certain duration with a certain amount of rest, a lot of times we can simulate that through elliptical or water running or different things, or even on the bike. If it's not a full range of motion, we can do certain things where we're still working the same energy systems and the same zones for the same amount of time. And so when they're now able to run or bike or whatever, they're used to exerting at that level for that duration of time, and so they're able to very quickly transition to a normal workout out on the road or the bike or somewhere else. But down to the level of helping someone recover more quickly with a specific injury, not so much to be exact without knowing the exact nature of that injury.
Okay. Well, with that, why don't we check in? Bill Burnett of Clermont Events has been sitting very, very patiently in the race director's corner of our studio here, and we just want to check in with Bill. Bill, Streamline Events, as we said in the beginning of the broadcast, is based outside of Boston. They have over 10 triathlons in New England and Florida. And one thing we did touch on specifically was that Streamline was the first management firm to stage an age group draft legal event, and that happened in Clermont, Florida. And it's just amazing weekend. It's an amazing event. Like I said, people get to try to get in the pace line like the pros. So, Bill, why don't we just first, we just real briefly, if you can, tell us what you think of, if you have anything to comment on what Jeff was saying from a race director's perspective, who hears a lot of different things from a lot of different athletes.
Oh yeah, Danny, thanks for having me. Look, the whole thing, I dabbled into this, my first race now 7 years ago as a hobby. And to think that now Streamline Events is now a full-time career for me. I quit my day job, and we now have a great team behind us here executing races in New England and a couple in Florida. So it's been a lot of fun, and I think our success has been around building a great team of people. And what's even more, what's cool is that all of our events are going towards some type of charity. So that's something I'm really proud about, that while we're giving back to the athletes, and many of the athletes that Jeff's working with now are coming to our events, but we're giving back to charity, which is something that's important to our company.
So, I think a lot of people do want to hear, a race director, it seems to me, it would be like, almost like a referee in a game, in a football game, is that they're doing their job if you don't hear anything about them or from them. So tell me, what's race directing like? Is it easy? What surprised you about doing it when you first started?
It's a mammoth effort. It truly is, and that's what I mentioned earlier about surrounding yourself around great people, great teamwork. Because think of all the things you've got to delegate. Everything from the promotion of the event to getting sponsors for the event to race the execution. There's so many details involved, and think of really it's 3 events within one event, right? You've got the swim you got to work on, you got the bike, you got the run. So it's more work than I ever anticipated, really. But it's a blast to finally see the race come to fruition with races going to the finish line. It's just a blast. It's a lot of fun.
So, tell us a little bit, and then we're going to get to a giveaway. First, tell us about the race down in Florida, and then we're going to get to the giveaway. We're going to go give away 2 tickets for entries into the Clermont Draft Legal race in Florida. So tell us about that race.
So Clermont's really special. I mean, who wants? I mean, to go to Florida in March is a great time of year. You want to get, if you're living north where it's cold, you get down to Florida. The race is in early March. That's number one. Number two, the course. We offer draft legal. Clermont, our event was the very first age group draft legal event in the country. So that's a great experience for the athletes. It's a completely closed course to all traffic. So you're getting in Florida in March. You've got the opportunity to race draft legal. We also, of course, offer a non-draft race too for those athletes. And furthermore, we've got a great facility called the NTC, the National Training Center, right there in Clermont, next to our race venue, where people can come down and train for the week. So we just really think we're offering a great opportunity to come down to Florida early, race early, train down there, and that's why we're excited to offer 2 free tickets tonight to that particular event.
Okay. So without further ado, and I should qualify this by saying that you do have to actually watch this broadcast, whether it's live now or on the replay, and we'll give people a few days to watch it. We know they're not going to watch it first thing tomorrow morning. We took everybody who registered, like I said, I think it was close to 600 people. We put them into a spreadsheet and then randomized them numerically. So everybody just kind of got jumbled out on a spreadsheet. And we drew a number, and the winner of the 2 tickets to Bill, what is the name of the event?
The actual name is the Clermont Challenge. The Clermont Challenge, yeah, on March 1st and 2nd.
Okay, so you will not be making a race entry fee from 2 people who are friends of or with the email address AndyInnerway@hotmail.com. AndyInnorway@hotmail.com. You can just email. Actually, I don't think we discussed how they're going to claim their prize. But they can email you as long as they come from that email address. They can email us at team@endurancefilms.com and to get in touch with anybody who's involved with this broadcast, and you'll get your prize. So thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate having you on here. Appreciate the generous giveaway. And if anybody needs to know anything from Bill, they can reach you at.
Yeah, right. So we're bill@streamlineevents.com.
Okay, bill@streamlineevents.com. Check out the events. Even if you didn't win the free one, check out their events. Amazing stuff, really fun. So now I don't know if Sean, can you hear us? I know you can.
I can hear you, and you can hear me.
Oh my God, he's here.
We're legit.
He's legit.
Look at Jeff. He's smiling. That's awesome.
I was afraid we recently did a video promo for Jeff's amazing TriTat product. I was afraid I was going to have to go in and do the VO verbatim just off the top of my head.
But you've got the live guy here, so we're good.
Sean, tell us about TriTats. I'll fill you in a little bit. TriTats you've seen it everywhere. It's an amazing race ID system where you use water to apply tattoos. You don't have to have some old lady volunteer grabbing your thigh when you walk into a race. It looks a lot cooler than a shaky hand written number. Tell us about TriTats, Sean.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here and participating with you guys, and this is a lot of fun. TriTats, basically the idea came to me about 6 years ago. My brother got me into triathlon, and I did my first Olympic distance event down at Memphis in May, a great event, and was traditionally body marked with a Sharpie. Then I went up to Hy-Vee in Des Moines and did a race, and I think Hunter Kemper walked by, and he had some stenciled numbers on his arm, and it's like, well, how do you get these cool numbers? I'm just an age grouper. How can I bring this nice style of body marking to the masses, to all of us age groupers out there? And then the idea of using a high-quality temporary tattoo came, and then the history is just set from there. We grew the company from simply doing body marking to then selling logo spots above the body marking tattoo numbers. So now race directors like Bill can actually sell that logo spot to Gatorade or to Muscle Milk or whoever it is. And now the company has progressed beyond tattoos. Now we do stickers. We do helmet stickers and bike stickers and bib numbers, and we actually do packet kitting. So if Bill's got a race down in Clermont, Florida, and he's got 1,300 athletes, we can actually stuff all those packets for Bill. So some race directors take us up on the whole body marking tattoos alone, and other race directors take us up on everything that we do.
And Sean, this isn't something that you need to wait to get to a race to use. You can go ahead and get this on the consumer level, right?
Correct. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, so actually we've got two sides to the business. We've got the wholesale side that we sell to the race director, to people like Bill, and then we've got the actual, call it the athlete side of the business, the retail side of the business. And so we've got our fancy Pro Packs. Inside this Pro Pack are 200 race number tattoos. So you get 20 zeros and 21s and 23s all the way up to number 9. And an athlete can go on our website and purchase this, or go to their local multi-sport retailer and buy that. Keep it in your triathlon bag and professionally body mark yourself. Events like Bill's tend to have high-quality items for the athletes, and they tend to have TriTats at the event. But for the other events that don't have the nice quality body marking and other aspects, then the athletes can certainly buy this online and take care of it and look pro. So basically, we say it's a professional angle. It makes you look pro. You help find yourself in the race day photos, and it's a safety angle. If you do end up unconscious on the side of the road because you got something bad happened, they can look up your number and figure out that your name is Frank Smith and you're age 55 and you're going off for a concussion to the hospital. So there is a safety angle.
Well, that angle, very important. Obviously, looking cool, probably most important. But also, just the weight that it takes off of somebody to have all your gear, especially with the complete race numbering system. And besides that, too, you got your transition bag or your gear bag marked. You got your bike marked. You got everything marked. It's all the matching numbers, easily identifiable to you. Sean, we're going to give away one of those Pro Packs you were just talking about, we randomized everybody who registered. We took your emails. The winner of the TriTats Pro Pack is going to be cararun@hotmail.com. That's CARARUN at hotmail.com.
Kara, congratulations. And we're going to throw in a free TriTats hat along with it.
Wow, awesome. Very cool. Thank you. So that is that, Sean. And I just wanted to back up. I don't know if I mentioned it, but backing up to what Jeff and the Outseason project, all that you can talk to Jeff. You can get in touch with him. You can find out more about TriDot, and especially Jeff. You get a free period of training, right?
Right. Everybody, all of our athletes, everyone participating in the Outseason, whether they're a current athlete or a new one, is going to get the Outseason top finisher T-shirt at the end, Tech T. We're giving away a lot of stuff for referrals, but I think on the page that everyone's watching tonight, there's a button where they can click for more information. Yep. They can go to that website, get more information, and they also can see if they qualify for the 2 months of training, kind of bartering, swapping out for their feedback on the TriDot training system.
Okay. So we've got Jeff covered. You know how to get in touch with him. I did want to mention that Suzanne Atkinson of TriMastery, who was actually a panelist on the last broadcast event we did, Triathlon Research Lab. She could not make it tonight. She wanted to, but she is offering. She is just a wealth of knowledge about swimming. She's as expert.
Can I say a couple of things? I know Suzanne.
Yeah,
I've seen her work. She really specializes in working with both triathletes and swimmers, helping them. She has a great knowledge in working with beginners and bringing them to their first race, but then also intermediate athletes as well. And she really implements a lot of total immersion techniques along with her training, with some very empirical metrics on how to measure athletes' ability, assess them, measure their stroke rate, paces, and all those types of things. It has a very methodical way that she works with them one-on-one to develop and progress their swimming, as well as training them for triathlon. So I know that she does incredible work. I wish she could have been here tonight as well, but I just wanted to throw that out on her behalf. Great.
Yeah, she is great. Again, total immersion. She's one of the head coaches at Total Immersion, and to go ahead and get in touch with her. She's going to be giving away some free training, some free workout sets. And again, get in touch with. Go ahead and you can email. I don't have her contact information here, but email us at team@endurancefilms.com. We'll be happy to tell you how to get in touch with. You could even go to Total Immersion's website. I'm sure they'll put you in touch. Any way you want to try to reach out to Suzanne. We'll get you the free workout sets.
Yeah, I think it's TriMastery.com.
TriMastery.com, TriMastery.com. Suzanne Atkinson. Finally, I wanted to just, it's something that feeds perfectly into the Outseason training project, and you mentioned it before, Jeff, is we, among our dozens and dozens of industry-leading titles in multi-sport that we've produced in-house in our library, including our landmark triathlon training series that was done it's the USA Triathlon Training Series, meaning True USA. It's Team USA. It's we produced it with USA Triathlon. We're the production company. They got us in touch with the Team USA coaches, Team USA athletes. But moving on to the Outseason, probably our best-selling product is our Rides Indoor Cycling Series, and that is something that you can employ with TriDot systems, training systems. You don't need a CompuTrainer. You don't need a $2,000 piece of machinery. You can just it's a video. So we're moving a lot to streaming. We have a couple streaming offered now, but you can get all the DVDs. There's 8 in the series, starting with the Rockies all the way to Pensacola, Florida. It's a DVD of expertly designed workout. It puts you right in there. The video is a pack of riders, seasoned pack of riders. Like I said, expert tailored video in some of the most coveted cycling destinations in the country. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to give away, just so you can check it out. We're going to give away an awesome training interval from the latest release, which was Rides Florida Paradise Road, and I'm going to just post a link on the comment page where you can go and you can get, if it posts, it's working. There it goes. It's on the comment page right now for this broadcast. You can get a free it's probably about half an hour from Paris Road, and if you want, you can click through, and we've got a discount to get the whole DVD. I think 50% off the whole DVD, and/or anything else you might want from Endurance Films. But we're not going to shirk our responsibilities in giving stuff away. We're going to give a full ride series away, 8 volumes, and the winner of that one, again, totally randomized, I keep having to make that disclaimer, is tim.taylor@pdgm.com. So Tim, you've got a complete rides indoor cycling series coming your way. So I hope we're 5 minutes over. That is 20 minutes less than I thought we might go, so congratulations to all of us. And by the way, everybody is there. Once you go to the websites of the panelists who are on here, if you have any questions, everybody's more than eager to help you out. So I just want to thank Jeff for filling us in on and what couldn't be better timing on the Outseason training project by TriTat Training Systems. Thank Bill Burnett of Streamline Events and Sean Jackson of TriTats. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach any one of us. But I'll be happy to sort of steer your questions the right direction. Just email team@endurancefilms.com. We're going to try to be doing these every couple of weeks, every 2 weeks or so. And thank you so much to everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. It just makes our jobs worth it to know that we have you here hanging out with us. So I guess I don't know quite how to. I guess I just say goodbye and end the broadcast.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.